Yes, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. Joined once again by Sonny from Sonny Talk Spurs and Dave Harris, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan. Good to bring that one back. That line hasn't been used in a while. Dave is also a fresh cut, looks like. So looking good, feeling good. Start with you then, Mr. Davo. How are you? Big week ahead and fresh cut, looking good.
Feeling clean, looking supreme, Jack. That's what they say, New era of Tottenham, new Dave. I'm fed up and looking scraggly. I said, time to get back on the winning trail. Stop looking like a loser. So I went out and got everything trimmed, ready for the big game at the weekend, Jack.
You're being harsh on yourself. I don't think you were looking like a loser, but if a haircut can definitely make you feel like a winner, that's for sure. Sonny, how are things in general? Talksport Towers, just life in general, everything all good?
I'm actually upset. I got a haircut this week as well, and you haven't noticed it, but I'm all ready for Sunday. Had enough of international break. Get it over and done with. Give my channel a kickstart talking about the games, and I'm going on Sunday as well, so very excited for that as well.
And everybody, let us know, which haircut is better. I think the only answer is Sonny's because he's the one actually showing the hair right now. Dave's actually hiding the hair at the moment, at least. So he's not even revealing it to us.
His sides look good, though. As soon as I joined the call, I was like, that looks clean. That's clean. Into the beard. He can actually grow a beard as well, unlike me. So,
well, that's the problem. Just quickly, though. I do want to play a game with the Irish Hotspur fans out there. Anyone that is going to the game, let's play a game of Find Sonny. So the first one to find Sonny and send in a picture with Sonny wins.
That's great.
Everybody catch him on the concourse, take some photos, or,
I'm in the south stand. I'm in the south stand, just as a clue if you're trying to find me.
Follow him wherever, trail right behind him, please, everybody, and on behalf of Dave and I, feel free to say hi to Sonny for us, even give him a little nudge, give him a bit of annoyance of some kind. But please say hi to him if you do come across him this weekend. But everybody, podcast time, plenty to discuss about. We're going to start first with some breaking news that has happened over the course of this sort of international break. It's kind of the quick fire news section that we kind of reintroduced, I think, into this podcast. And we're going to start first with the South Korean fans wearing Sonny shirts and their clash with China. Sonny had 2 goals and 1 assist. And I think he even shot back at sort of I think it was like the Chinese manager or something like that, sort of said, oh, like, we don't have to worry too much about Sonny or anything like that. And he ended up grabbing the 2 goals and 1 assist. And the South Korean fans, showing a bit of housery, which is just beautiful to see. Either you two caught this on the Twitter sphere?
I couldn't believe it. I was shocked. I was like, it was the most surprising thing I've ever seen. I've never known that to happen. Because whenever I've seen South Korean fans at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, they've all been lovely and they just obviously, really getting behind the team. Great fans. But now I've heard, seen this. I'm excited for Sunday. I'm really, I think, it's such a good community that we've unlocked for the Tottenham Hotspur fan base. Obviously, got a massive Australian fan base now because of Ange, South Korean fan base because of Son. So it's really good to see. But no, I really found it quite funny, to be fair.
Dave, did you catch the Twitter video of this?
Oh, I absolutely loved it, Jack. What I loved most was just the pure proudness of it, standing there without 0 Fs given, putting on the jersey, nice and proud, and then doubles down by giving them the finger as well. I mean, what an absolute hero. I'd absolutely love Spurs to bring him over, bring him out just before a game and get him a round of applause. What an absolute hero. Loved it.
I think it's slightly better than when you see, like, when the RC Luns or like Sporting fans, remember, like across the fence, they're showing the Spurs crest, at the Arsenal fans. I think what the Korean fan did there, I think, is actually slightly above that, in terms of housery. It's kind of similar, but, just instead of just, flashing a photo on your phone, just pulling out a kid and just wearing it. I think that's absolutely terrific. So fair play to him and fair play to the South Korean fans out there.
If I'm ever going to be remembered, Jack, just quickly, if I'm ever going to be remembered, that's the way I want to be remembered, like him.
Top class, housery. That's what you want to be remembered for. Ben Davies and Wales forced into the playoffs. Definitely been a tough sort of international break for Wales. Of course, we still have plenty of players on that team. Brennan Johnson, Joe Rodon, and Ben Davies are going to be forced into the playoffs. They drew 1-1 with Armenia and then drew, I think, as well with Turkey. So definitely going to be something to talk about there. I'm not really sure what else I'll bring up about that. Just that something to think about, that maybe the international break did not go as well for some of our Welsh players as they probably would have liked to. Emerson Royale, Lo Celso, and Romero reportedly played very well against each other. And there was at least so I heard, I'm kind of a bit out of the loop at the moment, but even some scuffles, I think, between the Argentinian players.
I mean,
and
that's an understatement. There was it was scuffles in the whole stadium, mate. Honestly, it proper kicked off. But I think I saw a clip of it. Seemed like Emerson and Romero were definitely having a good time, like friendly banter with each other. But I think, again, we've seen that Cutie Romero clear of Gabriel once again. And I've seen a lot of love, actually, for Romero following this game. A lot of people actually realising that, minus all the red cards, we have got a good player. He's still a young player and he's still very, very class. So he is our World Cup winner.
Well said there, Sonny. Dave, it's nice to see Romero back on the good books with Spurs fans, given praise as he deserves.
I mean, look, it's exactly what we missed against Wolves. If anyone's seen that highlight package of him from the game, he's passing out from the back. As soon as I seen it, I'm like, if we had that against Wolves, we would have destroyed them. Would have absolutely destroyed them. And look, the kick on Gabriel Jesus' head, I don't mind one bit. And I love these quotes after the game. Sometimes I got bored. I passed Gabriel Jesus the ball just so I could tackle him. So, I mean, look, this is what I want in my centre-back. This is what I want in my players. Absolutely love it. I'll be honest, all I care about is how Romero and Emerson got on. I couldn't care about how Lo Celso gets on.
I heard, actually, and I could be wrong, but I heard that, Romero and, I think Royale or Emerson, they are buddies. And so I think they probably did enjoy, kind of coming up against each other. But I could be wrong, but someone said there actually was a bit of a tension between Emerson and Lo Celso at one stage. And I could be making that up, but, would like to, if anybody has a clip out there, feel free to send that over to me. Would love to see that. But yeah, good to see at least Romero and some others, showing some praise. And Lo Celso was also showing some praise for his performance as well. Ashley Phillips picked up potentially an injury while playing for, I think it was the under 21s, Dave. I went back and did some research on this one, and very dedicated research that I found on sort of a Spurs Reddit forum. They were saying news. Actually, breaking news from them, my trusted sources. But they were saying actually the injury was not as bad as it was made out to be by the Twitter post, I think from like Spurs News or whatever it was. But I know you, Dave, really want to see Ashley Phillips. So were you kind of heart in your mouth kind of moment when you saw that notification?
I was just about to go live with Sean and Henry yesterday. I just seen it straight away on Twitter, and I was here we go. When it rains, it really does pour. But look, touch wood. Hopefully, he's back very, very quickly, Jack. Because I just don't want to see Dier in a Tottenham jersey anymore. We're here for a project. Bring me in Ashley Phillips.
Let's see them, Phillips. Next, let's go into some transfer news, and plenty of them, I would say, take with the biggest grain of salt, as you should. And then the other has to do with going into some transfer news on this quickfire news roundup. Sebastian Caceres is becoming a stronger possibility, the Uruguayan defender. If you remember that name, it's because he's that guy playing in the Liga MX at the moment that we've been linked to. And from some articles that I've been able to pick up, it seems like one of the more possible transfers, like more and more each passing week. I think there's already been some sort of negotiations between Spurs and Club America already. It seems like a realistic sort of transfer actually for Spurs in a lot of ways. He seems to be playing left-sided center back as well for the Uruguayan national team. And in their recent fixtures against Brazil, Argentina, and Bolivia, he started all 3 games as a left-sided center back. So clearly he's well rated by the Uruguayans. He's also playing under Marcelo Bielsa right now, who definitely plays a similar brand of football to, you would say, our Ange Postecoglou. They're very front foot, forward-thinking kind of managers. So I don't know much about Caceres. I should know more by now, but this is good to see that at least we're getting some sort of positive news on the center backs. I know Dave loves talking about the center backs, so I'll come back to him again here. Dave, Sebastian Caceres, I mean, you don't need to be an expert on the guy, but Uruguayan left-sided center back, it's becoming more of a possibility. If I were to make a prediction, put a $5 on a transfer, it would actually be this one.
Yeah, look, this one isn't going to break the bank. Probably flagged up on our scouting model, or on our what's it called? Our data scouting model as well. This is one I would say probably will happen. If you're going off reports that David Ornstein put out a while ago, that Tottenham don't have a lot of money going into this window, I suspect this one will happen even more. But look, we knew when Ange Postecoglou was coming in, we knew when we were switching to this data model that signings like this were a possibility. So with signings gone by, Raya, Vicario, many people now would say they prefer Vicario. If he does come in, let's not write him off before he gets going. Interestingly, though, he plays on the left, but he's right-footed. So, I've always maintained good centre-half should be able to do that anyway, so I'm happy.
Yeah, definitely. And it's our man Alfie Dorrington is even a similar player, right-footed, but really prefers playing on that left-hand side. Another player that we've been linked to, and it's come about, I think, more recently, Sonny, is Giorgio Scalvini, that very highly rated young Italian center back. I don't really know if this is happening this January or would happen in general, but I don't know. How do you feel about seeing center back, sort of rumors? It is nice.
Yeah, I mean, some of the transfer rumors lately have been a bit. I don't know. There's somewhere I feel like, we've had like Antonio Nusa and Santiago Jimenez where you're like, oh, these could happen. And then they've had Joe Bellingham and Rafinha from Barcelona.
Ruben
and
Neves,
you're like, and Ruben Neves. And I'm like, I feel like those ones are with a pinch of salt. I think Joe Bellingham's not going to move anytime soon. Rafinha, Barcelona are going to want a lot of money for him. Ruben Neves probably going to end up at Newcastle after the vote was passed as well. So I feel like these signings who we're saying here are more likely, especially in January, in the stat-based model for a bit of a cheaper stopgap, and then in the summer would probably go for something a bit more of like a concrete, solid name. So I'm happy, and if the scouts and iron up these players and see them as realistic targets, I think that'd be fantastic. It's a shame because, the players I did mention that we probably won't sign are good acquisitions. Like Joe Bellingham would be a fantastic 8, but we should have probably signed him from Birmingham. But we knew he was a highly rated talent. He's got that Bellingham gene in his body.
Can also play for the Republic of Ireland. They're trying to cap him.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I've heard this.
They are.
Dave.
Yeah, no. Well, Jude could have played for them as well, so I'm not surprised.
Half of your national team could have. Madison, Kane, Grealish, Rice. This goes on. Maguire, I'm pretty sure, could have played as well. And most of your national team could.
Dave is desperate as well, so I wouldn't put it past him to find some sort of a loophole to get that guy into the team somehow. So, Dave, you better be doing some whispering over to the Bellingham family. Break up the Bellingham family. Break it up. Put one Irish, one English. But it is nice to see us linked with a guy like Scalvini. It is even nice to see us linked with center backs like Caceres. Just quickly, you did mention Rafinha there, Sonny. I've seen rumors of swap deals. One of them with Romero, I just completely laughed at. That sounded ridiculous. But the one that actually seemed more likely was Lo Celso actually going the other way and Rafinha coming towards our way. Don't think Rafinha is going to leave in January, but that one actually somehow made sense that Lo Celso could go to Barcelona and maybe we negotiate a player in return.
Well, I could see that happening. I think we've got quite a good relationship with Barcelona. Obviously, they've lost Gavi for a long-term injury, probably missed the Euros and the Olympics, which is a shame for a young player like him. But yeah, I think when it comes to forward positions as well, I feel like Barcelona, it hasn't really worked for Rafinha. He was, such a good talented player for Leeds. It could happen, but then, he's more of a right winger and we're looking more at left wingers. So at the moment, when it comes to what players we actually need, I feel like there are some question marks. Tottenham fans can reel off what we think we need, but we obviously don't know what Ange Postecoglou or the scouts are actually technically looking for. But yeah, I mean, me and Dave were talking before the podcast about Lo Celso and sort of saying I think his time's up, personally. There's lots of people saying on Sunday he should be starting. Personally, I don't really think he should be. It should be Bentancur, which does actually, to me, I'm quite, as people probably realise, glass half empty sort of Spurs fan. I'm sort of a bit cautious with certain things. And with Bentancur, I'd like to wrap him up in bubble wrap, cotton wool, and put him out at a later date. But push comes to shove. We've got these fixtures. We've got a lack of midfield. And to be fair, when he's come on, he has looked quite sharp and match fit. So I will give him his due. So, yeah, I think the time's up for Lo Celso. If we can recoup some of the feedback or get a swap deal in somewhere, that'd be fantastic. Maybe try and get one of Barcelona's centre-backs, but I don't think that's possible with the likes of Koundé or Araujo or someone like that.
That's right. They do actually have a lot of brilliant centre-backs actually there that I would love to have. Dave, would you see Lo Celso quickly going to Barcelona? That actually seems like a possibility to me. I'm not sure if we'll get a player in return, but if Lo Celso were to leave, I could see Barcelona happening.
Yeah, well, look, it's not the first time they've been linked with Lo Celso. You know, there's been long-standing interest there. Rumors are led to be believed. So, and as well, you know, Barcelona have to operate under guidance right now because of financial fair play. There's not a lot of room for them to maneuver. So, these swap deal could very well happen. If you're looking at a team that might entertain it, you would say it would be Tottenham, someone like Tottenham, and you know, if you can bring in Rafinha and get rid of the Celso, for me, do it. I think Rafinha was brilliant at Leeds. You know, and let's see if he can do it at Tottenham. You know, I was saying to you with the Celso, Jack, sometimes you can be a good player. You just doesn't work out at a club. And, you know, who knows? Premier League just might suit Rafinha better than Spanish football.
Maybe so. And it makes sense, actually, that Spurs could have a decent relationship with Barcelona, considering they're in kind of a financial, bad point. And so we love a good bargain when we can find one. And so it maybe makes sense that we'll develop that relationship with them. And last, but you could say least, Tottenham cool interest in Trevor Chalobah amid some injury worries there. That was a player, of course, that we were linked with in the summer, and potentially we are taking now our eyes off of him because of some of the injury woes he's had over this season as well as other seasons, but not really sure what else to add to that. But that's sort of the quick fire news there. And I think we'll move into the big news that has happened. And you could say big with sort of air quotes of some kind, because at least in my opinion, has been made to be a bigger deal than it is. The Times have revealed details of an investigation which shows Tottenham broke agent rules when Jermain Defoe left the club for Portsmouth in 2008. An unlicensed agent, Mitchell Thomas, was a central figure in the deal, which saw Defoe move from North London to the South Coast. FA rules at the time banned the use of an unlicensed agent, and the case was heard by an independent arbitration panel, but no action was taken at the time in 2008. However, the FA have now confirmed that they are willing to review the case if more details were to become available. More details have become available via the Times from, I believe, a certain Lawton. It's his name, Matt Lawton, right? Of the Times has come out with that article, and Spurs could be in trouble. But Sonny, I'll go to you on this one. Could you see Spurs getting punished for this? And a bit odd that this has come out, considering that there's so many other clubs that you would think of first that are actually in probably deeper trouble for what they've done.
I mean, it's such an interesting story, and I was well over it because obviously the Times and TalkSport, who I work for, are owned by the same people. So Matt Lawton, if you haven't already seen it, was on TalkSport when the news broke. Obviously, put the article out on the Times, then was on TalkSport with agent Sky Andrews, Jim White, Simon Jordan, and he explained it. So if there's people out there who don't really know the ins and outs and the details, Matt Lawton does perfectly of explaining what it is. To answer the first question of why us and all what's going on with the other clubs, I'd say obviously this happened nearly 15 years ago, and it involves something which, is not allowed. This whole agent thing, it's not, you can't do that. You're breaching FA rules. The FA did not know a lot about it. I think they either did one of two things. They either swept it under the rug or sort of like ignored it or didn't know how to deal with it, when at the time, apparently with Luton, they gave them a 10-point deduction. With Leeds, I think they punished their owner at the time, who I still can't remember his name. I mentioned that in my video I did reacting to it, the eccentric Italian fella. So it is very, very interesting. And the thing that also is key is, I think, with the stuff with Everton, with Manchester City and with Chelsea, their punishment, or not punishment, because obviously not been punished yet apart from Everton, the accusations labelled against them are far, far greater. City have breached 115 separate charges. Chelsea obviously have their certain charges in their acts under Roman Abramovich, which happened over, certain years. Same with Everton. I'd say a lot of what they did was in the last sort of 5-ish years, maybe 5 to 10. And whereas with us, it's like well back. So people that are worried about this, I know, don't get me wrong, if you've seen my video, it might have been a bit clickbaity, being like points deduction, relegation, At the end of the day, I think, to cut a very long story short, I think Tottenham are going to be given a hefty fine. That's my opinion on the matter. I feel like that's it. It's a situation where we've sold a player. So we've sold the player. Like, the player has left us. We haven't gained from it. Jermain Defoe's goals that season didn't help us because we let him go. So if anything, maybe more question marks. I think Dave was referring to this, so I hope I haven't nicked his point. Dave was referring to maybe Portsmouth have more to answer, or even, I don't want to blame him because I love him to bits, but maybe Jermain Defoe, Harry Redknapp, people like that involved at the time. Obviously, the main person who's going to be in the firing line is Levy, because he's still at the club and was at the club back in 2008. But I think if there's any Spurs fans out there worried or, about points deductions, relegation's true, but points deductions or anything, even transfer ban, I don't think that would happen either. I think this is, if we started really getting a fine-tooth comb out about football, we'd really, there'd be stuff to dig up. And, don't get me wrong, like Matt Lawton and the Times, it's amazing, like, journalistic skill that they've done here. But I don't think fans should be worried. We've seen Everton have already been punished, but I'd be far, far more worried if I was a Chelsea or City fan. So that's my take on it.
What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, look, I don't think there's going to be too much serious fallout from it. I mean, they already had the evidence of Daniel Levy speaking to that guy Thomas through phone conversations. They had phone records at the time anyway. So, I don't think there's going to be too much that's going to come to light for them to be able to come and reopen the case, and that's what they need. Look, for me, it stinks of Thomas crying. I think, he was operating as an unlicensed agent, obviously got cut out of the deal, didn't get the money he was after, and I think he's still trying to pursue his losses, in my opinion. I think he's waiting for Tottenham to be found guilty so that then he can take, Tottenham or Jermain Defoe or Portsmouth to the court of law and go and seek damages. That's what it stinks of to me, to be honest with you, because if you go and do your research, Daniel Levy actually hired a license agent to complete the deal on Tottenham's behalf, which he paid $1 million for, and that guy's name was, I'll get it for you now, Stuart Peters. So Tottenham actually went out their way. They knew they couldn't conclude the deal. I think what happened there is, to be able to agree terms with Jermain Defoe and everything else, they went through that guy that was with Defoe at the time, but they knew they couldn't complete the deal without a licensed agent, so they went and got one. And I think where the problem and where the legalities actually come around for Tottenham Hotspur is that you're supposed to present a representation contract. It's required under the FA rules, and there didn't seem to be one put in place. That's where the legalities come in around Tottenham, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's from Tottenham's side. That could be from Portsmouth's side, because they knew they were dealing with an unlicensed agent on that end also. The whole Harry Redknapp thing, like me and Sonny were talking about before we went live here, the scandal with some money around him and stuff like that. That Portsmouth chairman was corrupt at the time. So, look, for me, I don't really worry about it too much imploding on Tottenham Hotspur. If we're going by how Daniel Levy has run this club in terms of financial fair play and stuff like that, I don't think he is one that would, go out his way to break the rules. However, if he did, then it opens up a big can of worms. And why won't you do that all the time and do what Man City and Chelsea do to deliver trophies? But on this one, I think Tottenham did try and cover themselves with hiring Stuart Peters, to represent Tottenham's side of things on the deal, who was a licensed agent. Now, I know what they're saying is that, that representation contract, it's about integrity in the transfer window, this, that, and the other. So, look, we might get slapped with a fine. I'll take it on the chin and I'll move on. But, I mean, they'd want to start looking into the 150 charges against Man City then quickly, or a lot quicker, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I never thought I'd see the day, Sonny, that Spurs would get in trouble for this sort of thing. It's sort of what Daniel Levy almost takes pride in. In fact, like, never getting.
I was joking about this. I was joking about on like a video or something saying like, "Oh, we could never get in trouble. We don't spend." And then I've seen this, and I'm like, actually, this is us trying probably not to spend or trying to find.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, football clubs will find loopholes. They always do. Look at how Chelsea have just been found out with signing these players up to 7, 8, 5,000 year contracts because they can split the payments up over the length of the contract. And the FA and the Premier League go, actually, wait a minute, let's put a stop to this. I just think it's really interesting that it's come out now. Like, it is very interesting why it's come out now all of a sudden. I don't know if this is, the Times, both in their sports department and their news department, do thorough research and really, have got some really top journalists there. So whatever they do is like thoroughly researched, and
well, we're being blamed for
a lot
everything.
of work into this.
Troubles, aren't we? Through the Dele Alli deal and the Richarlison deal, apparently.
Well, I found that funny though, because they decided to sell him for 60 million, and they had to. If they didn't sell him for 60 million, they would have been in a deeper hole. And the Dele Alli thing is just, but they didn't know. So it's like, it just makes you laugh. And what I find funny about that, and Simon Jordan made a good point on TalkSport, is people keep going with, it's only 20 million. It's over 20 million. They had like a minus 250 million deficit. So don't come out with me with like some 20 million. Like, that's what makes it. We are actually run, and I know we give stick on here about leaving that, but like financially, we are run to the book. We are run like, we earn profit. We don't work at a loss. A lot of the money that's made from the club does go back in. So it is very interesting how, like, we are self-sufficient, but this is just such it just feels like, sorry, Jack, it's just such a weird situation, because it feels like we might as well be talking about the club in the 1900s.
16 when it happened. 16.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's so.
I didn't even know what a pair of tits was. Jesus Christ!
Football was just a different time back then.
Sure.
That's hilarious. But Dave, you needed all the details and you needed a full investigation, and now you know. But in the case
no, just start with a pair of tits and us two.
You needed a Times article to find out. I really I would associate Daniel Levy more with cleaning the books than I would with cooking the books. Like, he's not a guy that's going to cook the books. He's going to be cleaning the books and making sure that every dot and every T is, or whatever the phrase is crossed and all that sort of stuff. Just maybe one that I could see us probably getting in trouble for is actually more or less like underpaying for a player and getting sued for that sort of thing. Like in the case of Monor Solomon, maybe that might come back to haunt us with Shakhtar Donetsk. And to be fair, we probably should be punished for that sort of thing. It was quite cruel to get a guy like that, on a free transfer in that sort of way. But that's what I mean. Like, that's what sort of Spurs would be guilty of. Spurs would be guilty of maybe signing a guy for cheaper than what he really was supposed to be, or something like that. Not this type of, sort of business. This is just sloppy, a bit on the lazy side as well. And it doesn't really seem to be how sort of Spurs would go about their business. They very much have always been, it seems like, kind of a bit of a clean cookie cutter type of sort of club when it comes to this type of thing. They don't like to get in trouble or like to make things sort of maybe, I don't know, kind of controversial, maybe is the word I'm looking for. But maybe just quickly on this, Sonny, plenty of Spurs fans are upset that, there hasn't been much of a peep about Chelsea or Man City. This article has just come about. And I'm not saying that it's Matt Lawton that has an agenda or anything, but is there maybe an agenda at play, maybe in the Premier League, or maybe in the independent sort of a panel that's been brought in to sort of judge these cases? Or is this just like an easier case to just sort of slap a team with and just give them a fine, like you say, and maybe they're going to deal with the Chelsea and Man City stuff later?
I think I think the latter, personally. I don't personally agree with agendas in football. I mean, I just think, like, I can't personally see there's like that, this world where there's just, things happen like that. But I think what it is we're in a situation where the Chelsea and City situations are like that old-fashioned filing cabinet with all the drawers, and it's got thousands and thousands of bits of paperwork, and they're going through it, and they've really got to go through it, because we knew when that 115 charges came out, everyone was like, give them a points deduction now. And it's like, no, we actually have to double check, and at the end of the day, City and Chelsea are not going to sit back and be like, no, they're going to fight, especially City. I mean, we've all seen the clip of them with all the with all their lawyers coming out. They'll hire the best lawyers in the world to defend that case. Whereas this, it's like, it'll be a slap on the wrist, a fine, and sort of this thing to say, set a precedent of like, this can't happen. This happened all these years ago. We've moved on from then. This can't happen. We're trying to govern football better. And the FA, even we look at the FA. The FA is different to what it was in 2008 to what it is now in 2023. They have moved on. They have changed. They have hopefully got better. So we can move on. And the thing is, Everton have been dealt. Everton have had their punishment because it was a bit of a simpler case. It was over the last couple of years, and we all know their FFP situation. A City is just so much, especially City. Chelsea, I'm not so much over. I'm not so much. I can't remember what they're sort of being punished for in particular. I just know there's loads of dodginess is all I'm going to say. Whereas with City, it was sort of like it's like a web. It's just so complex, and thinking of like, who is this sponsor? Who's funding this? Where's this money come from? They've worked at this profit. Where's this come from? So it is very interesting how it all works. But yeah, I think when it comes to Tottenham, honestly, if you're a Tottenham fan right now, do not worry.
Yeah, and it's just because, like, if we even were to be punished, let's say, harshly, I mean, Lord have mercy then on Man City and Chelsea.
Exactly. People saying points deduction for us. If we get like a 5-10 point deduction, then you should 30 points.
They'll be banned from football. Like, I
leave
think, in their case. So that's where I'm actually not worried, is because if we are getting in trouble for something like this, then surely some of the other clubs should be absolutely petrified about what's about to come their way. But Dave, Sonny did mention there he doesn't believe in agendas. You and I love to believe.
I knew it. As soon as I said that, I felt his eyes just burning into me like that. And he's going, "You're not on the podcast anymore."
Agendas at play here, Dave? Or is this just like a easier slap on the wrist that they can just, it's like, on your way out, you pick up a, something on the way home, just because it's like an easy errand for the Premier League right now, just to slap Spurs with this and deal with the bigger cases afterwards? Or is there an agenda?
Look, I know people aren't going to like my answer, because a lot of people don't like my answers when it comes to these agendas against Tottenham. But the fact they're putting up something 16 years ago that was already dealt with, because we're high flying up the top of the league and in threat of ruining the Champions League spots that they want to dish out to the big boys. I mean, all of a sudden, the case from 16 years ago pops up. I'll let you decide. Let me know in the comments, do you think it's agenda or not? I already know what I believe. I said this would happen.
Are they kicking us while we're down?
Are
they kicking us while we're down, is what you're thinking, Dave?
Oh, 100%. Look, I said this, Jack. As soon as Tottenham go anywhere near the top of the league, everyone crumbles together. You've got rival fans who usually hate each other coming together. You've got the FA. People say, is their agenda against Tottenham? I mean, I can go back as far as Lasagna Gate. If that was any other club, they would have been allowed to play it the next day. It's not an
agenda. It's just a curse.
What did they give us? 1 hour grace because they wanted to wrap up the Premier League on the same day. Then you go back to COVID times, right? Arsenal managed to get a game called off, even though they were only missing one player. Yet we had a squad riddled with COVID. Oh, guess what? Can we move our Premier League games so that we can participate in Europe? No, you cannot. And we end up having to get kicked out of Europe. So, is there an agenda against Tottenham? I mean, it's very easy to say no, but I do have evidence stacked on my side to maybe suggest there could be other forces at play here. So I'm going to say, yes, I do think there is an agenda, because I've always said this growing up. It always feels like to me, everyone tries to stop Tottenham from winning something as best as they can. And I think it is. I think it is one of them. But I also fear that the Premier League are using the likes of Everton, one of the smaller teams, Tin Pot Club, and also Tottenham, one of the big teams, but the less big team with respect around this Premier League, to make an example to big teams to say, get your house in order. I do worry about that. But look, at the end of the day, we're Tottenham Hotspur. I've always said this. Everyone else is going to try and pull us down. It's about us using that as fuel to the flames, Jack, and using it to go on and be absolutely great. So, although I think there's agenda at play, I hear other people where they say there might not be. But look, I think there is.
Yes, Sonny.
The Times have literally just tweeted, the FA has confirmed that it is now looking into allegations of potentially serious breaches of agent rules of the transfer involving Tottenham Hotspur, Portsmouth and Jermain Defoe. So,
did they say what new evidence came to light in it?
That's literally, it says they're looking into it. So
probably someone's ancestor came back and gave them a message through
what is interesting about that is it just says it doesn't say anything who, it just says the transfer involving Tottenham, Portsmouth, Jermain Defoe. So it doesn't say like
embarrassing.
And I just replied in a group chat there, not trying to sound rude. My mate went, Spurs getting done before City and Chelsea will be effing ridiculous, but very, very funny. And I just went, I would worry more if I was them.
Ask him, is there an agenda at play?
Yeah. Dave says.
To be fair, Dave, your answer was more diplomatic than I expected. In
I
that
did as
case,
well,
it was pretty good, and definitely some evidence there for sure. If you want to find yourself on Dave's
timing
side.
though.
A question though on this, like an extra question, is it seems like the Premier League has been cracking down, on sort of things more recently, Sonny. Are you happy about that? Are you glad that they kind of are taking more of a step up in this department, or do you think there's maybe something off about it?
I just think with the current state of football and talks of corruption, I feel like it's like cleaning house, isn't it? It's like getting rid of out with the old, in with the new. Let's actually abide by the rules we set. We've seen with like FFP didn't exist 20-25 years ago, and people were allowed to spend how they want, and the way that clubs, like on the other scale of this, we got Tottenham fans moaning and worrying. What about like the likes of Derby? What about the likes of Wigan? What about the likes of Bury? That doesn't even exist anymore as a club.
Yeah.
There's more clubs that have been punished in a harsher way because of stuff out of their hands, like Bury sold for £1. Like, it's just a joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just mismanagement by I mean, my local club, Southend United, run into the ground by an owner who didn't care and always owed tax bills to HMRC. So that and luckily they've been bought out by a new ownership who's Australian. So Aussie's saving another club, which is always good to hear. So when people are looking into this, and even like I read that tweet out in a sinister way, I just feel like it is a lot of faff over nothing personally. So maybe I'm conceding to some agenda here, Dave.
Yeah, what do you think, Dave? Are you happy that the Premier League is cracking down? It's the last question before we go into part 2, but what do you think? Like, Premier League cracking down on this sort of thing? They never did it in the past, but now they are. What do you think of it?
Look, I think, it depends on what side of the fence you sort of fall on with what way your club operates, right? If we operated like City or Newcastle, I'd be sitting here going, no, I hate it, But because the way we operate, I'm all for it. Crack down as much as you can, because it does seem like for the last 22 years, that Daniel Levy and Joe Lewis have been trying to play that long game, that eventually they've been waiting for this to come in, everyone get caught, and all of a sudden Tottenham are top of the pile with all the resources. It does feel like that's the way they've been playing it. So I do hope now that it does happen so that we can finally go and win something. And I also think, if you want to keep the Premier League for what it was, or for what it is, or for what's attracting everyone into it, which is a league where really anybody on their day can beat anybody, and stuff like that. If you want to keep the essence of the Premier League, the league that we all love, I think it has to happen, because you're in danger now of it going to end up like other leagues, like a one-horse sort of race, and all the others, vying, between them for Champions League spots and stuff like that. And, some would argue maybe it's already sort of getting like that with Man City picking it up every year and most domestic trophies as well. But look, there's a big secret in football that's waiting to come out. If you think, it stops at FIFA and everyone else, below it, and all the leagues and everything else, there's not some sort of corruption, you're sadly mistaken. All you got to do is go and look at Italy, the corruption scandals they've had there over the years. If you think it's not in the Premier League, it is. It's just been very well hidden. I think it is getting to a point where you're getting unwanted suitors coming to buy football clubs, and they're trying to take it and manipulate rules and, dictate it whatever way they want. And I think there's going to be a pushback. I think at some point, inevitably, a pushback is going to happen. And I think that's what's happening now. So, look, if you want to keep the game that I fell in love with, a kid that I believed there wasn't corruption, this, that, and the other, and it was just a beautiful game, yes, for sure, crack down.
Yeah, I want them to crack down too. I've complained a lot about how I feel like the Premier League is already the Super League. I didn't think there was much of a need for the Super League, because the Premier League has already become ridiculous, and how rich it is compared to even the rest of the European clubs around the world. You have clubs like last season, Nottingham Forest signing Keylor Navas in January to try to survive relegation.
Historic club, though. Historic club.
Very historic club, but that just showed how unbalanced, the Europe is with the Premier League. To be able to sign Keylor Navas mid-season for a relegation battle is just ridiculous with how much times have changed. But I do want them to crack down. The one thing I would say that's slightly hypocritical about it, it does seem that it's coming off the back of that, and I think Simon Jordan's been speaking about this, Sonny, right? The arbitration panel, or the independent sort of a panel that's coming into the Premier League to do some of this work for them. It could be the case that the Premier League right now is realizing that, you know what, we need to look like we're competent. We need to look like we know that, this is going to be, headed towards more of a stricter type of financial rules and everything. So we're going to do some of this work ourselves. We're going to look like the good guys. We're going to try to crack down, when in fact they've been playing pretty much a blind eye towards it. It feels like this whole time. So it does feel like maybe off the back of that arbitration panel or whatever that's coming in, they're just sort of acting like good boys. It'd be kind of like as if I sort of went on like a diet or something like that, of junk food. And then all of a sudden, after eating years and years and years of junk food, now you're like calling out all your friends and all your buddies and your parents and everybody for like, eating junk food. It just seems just a bit sort of like, now that you've had just this revelation all of a sudden, about changing your ways, now you're making everybody else, kind of go with you. That's what it kind of comes across to me, is like maybe the Premier League has decided to do some exercise. They decide to cut down on the junk food, and they're making everybody else kind of follow suit, which is fine. That's how it should be. But it does seem to be slightly sort of off of the back of maybe the pressure that they know they're about to be under.
Well, I also wonder, Jack, you're speaking about pressure. Is it to do with, remember there was a while there where people were looking for the government to get involved, an independent regulator. And I wonder, is there becoming a point now where in order to avoid that, they have to clean house, or they have to be seen to be doing something about it. Exactly. And that's why all this is coming about. And I think you're right. Maybe it is the pressure of that forcing them to clean their act up, because if an independent regulator does come in, I think there's going to be a lot of unsavory stories that people won't like to hear.
I completely agree. Sonny, I enjoyed part one. That was actually only part one, everybody. Apologies, but it was very enjoyable. Any final, comments or anything before we go into part two?
I think there's an agenda on this podcast against me now.
And, we'll go into our next agenda in part two, everybody. Yes, everybody, and we're back for part two. Poor manners on my part, because we spent a very long part in part one. Really enjoyed it, but I didn't ask everybody to smash the like button. So if you're still watching with us, smash the like button, get your comments in. And I also forgot to tell everybody, as we should have, to head on over to Sonny Talk Spurs, because he even did I wouldn't say it was a cheeky plug. It was just a very quick plug. Usually, we allow you to, give you a longer one, but you did already do your own video about the deduction of points and everything. So please, everybody, do head on over to Sonny Talk Spurs if you are still listening with us. But we're going to move away from the fines and the talk of agendas and everything, and we're going to talk about the defense and the midfield and the changes that potentially need to be made ahead of a very big game against Aston Villa. Ahead of this game, we will be out with Romero. He won't be available. Van de Ven will not be available. James Maddison likely not too. And Yves Bissouma, who of course picked up an extra yellow card and will get a suspension for an accumulation of those. But defense and midfield changes. Dave, we'll start with you. What are you thinking about? Where would you start first?
I'll start with centre back. I know there's going to be a big clamour towards Dier and Davies being put out there again. And look, for 91 minutes, they weren't that bad, which is true, right? They weren't that bad for once in 91 minutes. However, Villa's going to be a tight game. And we've already seen how they handle the pressure in tight situations. Both goals started with them in possession, which is the base and the most fundamental principle of Ange Postecoglou's system. So for me, they can't start again. And if Ange starts them, he's going against his own beliefs and his own system, which then I would start to worry a little. So for me, I think he needs to be strong. I think he's got plenty of options. Emerson Royale can fit in at right centre-back. I'd rather give him an opportunity there. I think he's better on the ball than Bolt. And look, I'd also give Ashley Phillips a run out as well, see what he can offer. Personally, I think Ashley Phillips and I think some of the youngsters will be held back till after the City game, because if they come in now and they play well, they have to play against City and up against Erling Haaland. I mean, that's a different level to step up to altogether. So I do think they'll be held back till after City. But, look, if you have to keep one in, I'd go with Emerson and Davies personally. Not ideal, but dire shit.
Before we go into the midfield, Sonny, do you agree with Dave's changes? And do you feel like Ange should really be considering changes? Like, would you be, I don't want to put you on the spot here, and probably should ask this to Dave, because he would have maybe gladly answered it, but I'll put you on the spot first. Agendas first. Would you be disappointed if Ange went with the same back pairing of Davies and Dier? Like, not saying you would call him out or anything on Twitter or anything like that, but would you be disappointed kind of thing? You know what, Ange, can't go with that again. Like, what would be your thought process if you went with?
I mean, you could say that, but then sometimes he's having to deal with the cards he's being dealt.
Yes.
But then sometimes he could. I mean, Dave has actually given a good example of how he could shift it without changing it too much, because Emerson was out there that day, even though I don't think he was that good. Personally, I mean, we don't know what this Phillips injury is like either, so maybe I am edging more towards, Adogi will come back in hopefully if he's. I mean, there was talk of him being injured as well, but hopefully he'll be fine. Him and Poro back, because we're going to have to deal with a lot of Villa pace. I'm thinking Dier, I'm thinking Watkins. So I'd keep Davies in definitely, because I think Davies made a better account of himself than Dier, but that's not hard. And then it's down to Emerson, or I don't know if I trust Emerson at centre back for a full 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And Phillips is an unknown entity, so it's really, really tricky. I can just see Dier lining up though. Not my personal choice, but I can see Dier just maybe one more chance. And if you go out there and make a sham of it, then that's it, mate. You're off.
I don't think you need to trust them, Sonny. I think it's kind of one of those, best choice of a shit flavored lollipop that you have to pick from, really. Like, it's just which one do you prefer and which one do you think you can sort of tolerate for 90 minutes. I don't think you need to necessarily trust them. I could see why sort of Spurs fans do kind of want to look at it that way. It's like, which guy can I really actually put faith into? Which guy can I actually get behind? And I'll be honest, I don't think you really need to get behind. You just, like, which one can you actually just sort of tolerate? Which one can you, like, grimacingly, like, get through 90 minutes with? Personally, for me, it's Emerson. I think Emerson actually can defend compared to Dier. I think Dier has always been overlooked as actually a bad defender. I don't think he usually has any idea what's behind him, what's in front of him, what's next to him. Whereas Emerson is good at actually clearing the ball. He's good at dealing with crosses. He's actually decent, I think, on one-on-one defending, on his day. He has that strength and sort of that just ability to, I think, read the player when they do end up trying to take it past him. Whereas Dier, I think we've seen in one-on-one defending is just too easy to get past. I think still to this day, I will reference that Marcus Rashford goal from last season where he just was like a chauffeur just showing a man to his table or something like that, or like a waiter, at a restaurant. He just showed him all the way to our goal, never put in one challenge, and never even bothered to just shove Rashford or anything like that. Just give him a little push, just sort of let him all the way through. And I think Emerson, we would know, even if he missed the tackle or not, certainly would have at least made a challenge at some stage, whereas Dier just continued to drop back, and just was a fine example, I think, of the guy just doesn't have any real sort of one-on-one defensive skills. And I do feel like he struggles in just sort of anticipating, that's also part of being a good defender, anticipating the danger before it's there, anticipating something that could lead to a goal for the opposition. And not saying Emerson's exceptional at this, but I do think he's better than Dier. So Dave, what do you make of that? I mean, it's not like you need to trust these guys. It's just sort of which of the shit flavored lollipops would you like to go with? For me, I'd go Emerson, Davies. I'm not fully confident. I think we could still easily lose with that back pairing. But for me, it's just you at least have one guy that could, give you a bit more defensive solidity. And then in Ben Davies's case, also kind of like, can be defensively solid on his day and might not cost us as much as I think Dier might. And also, too, having Udogie back, pray that he's back for this game, would also then mean, the decision's a little bit easier because you don't have to play Emerson at left back. And I agree with Sonny. It really wasn't as good of a display from him at left back compared to what he had with Crystal Palace. He really wasn't on. He just wasn't good in possession. He really was just slowing things down too much, and he looked uncomfortable at times. But maybe at center back, he could do more of a job than what Dier would.
Yeah, look, just quickly. I mean, we're lucky that Sonny wasn't sitting there and his tighty whitey's there. You know, very lucky. But imagine the time on this first cockerel on. I would have loved it. I would have absolutely loved it. But no, on to what you were saying, Jack. Look, there's no guarantee, right, that Emerson and Phillips are going to come in and be what we expect them to be. No guarantee whatsoever. However, everyone knows where I'm at with this. You know, we had this debate going into the Wolves game. We gave Dier and Davies that opportunity yet again to try and prove that they can show us something different. They didn't. There's no point in persisting with it. You know, and for me, you've got to try something different. The definition of insanity is trying the same thing, expecting different results. So let's stop being insane and let's start trying to be a genius. Let's try and work something different. You know, we all, you know, there was a lot of things put towards content, but he won't try anything. Okay, grand. Well, then let's take what we used against Conte and bring it into Postecoglou. We want to try something, so try it.
Yeah, Conte and Jose found themselves in similar situations and got a lot of slack for it with some of the decisions that they went with. And even from myself, you know, I got really frustrated with Conte for continuing to pick certain players. It did get a little sort of, just got frustrating, but they really were given a lot, you know, by fans for that. And not saying Ange deserves like any sort of hatred or pressure or anything like that, but I think I would be pretty disappointed if Ange actually went with Dier and Davies again. Like I said, it's not a great situation. It's not easy choices by any means. Like, it's not obvious like there's some great center back that's just sort of sitting there just waiting to be picked and waiting to step in. You do have to make an uncomfortable decision, but at least in my opinion, I think there's a slightly better uncomfortable decision in front of him, and that would be actually moving Emerson into center back, and also off the back of what was an underwhelming performance from the back pairing of Davies and Dier. Don't want to throw Davies too much under the bus because, like I have brought up before, I think for the general 90 minutes, he was actually okay compared to Eric, but it's just we've seen those two paired together too many times, and should already know as well that these guys have been paired together far too many times to really be relied upon. So you're going to have to make an uncomfortable decision, I think, Ange.
Look, you've got two options, right? You change the system and the style of football to suit them, which we already know doesn't work. I'd argue Conte and Jose done that, proved they can't play that way either. So then you're actually at a point where you just have to accept they ain't good enough at this level. They're not a Tottenham Hotspur level player, you know, and we just have to accept that fact. You know, we can't have every manager coming in tailoring to their needs to the worst squad player, to the worst players in the squad. You can't have that. If we really want to kick on, you have to try something. You have to change the personnel, you know, or you like I said, you change the personnel or you suit the tactics towards them. Well, I know what one I'd be doing.
Midfield also needs to be potentially changed because Yves Bissouma is going to be out for this game. Sonny. Lo Celso, a lot of people are getting behind him this week. And Dave and I did a little bonus section on whether he's overrated or underrated. So how about you tell us, what do you think of Lo Celso? Can he step up for us this weekend? And would you make any changes to the midfield?
Lo Celso, no. See what I did there? I just don't think I just think his time's up. Even in his cameos, even in pre-season, people were harping on. He was the one I actually controversially remember saying when I started the channel, I did a whole squad keep, sell, go. I put him in the sell and I put Ndombele in the keep because I thought maybe, I mean, that sounds madness now, but I mean, should just have got rid of both of them because maybe they're an extra body. I don't think he's a starter. Personally, in midfield, I would go with. See, this is where it gets tricky because I know the three I'd pick. It'd be Højbjerg, Bentancur, and Sarr. Mm-hmm. But who plays six? Because it seems that Ange prefers putting Højbjerg as an 8, but I don't think he's versatile enough to play an 8. But the 6 has to be able to sort of turn on a sixpence, be a good passer, also defend, drive with the ball. Højbjerg can't do that either. So they're pretty much similar positions. You know, this 6 feels like an 8. It just has to more defensive, has to do more defensive work. So it is going to be tricky. But then maybe do you take Højbjerg out? I don't think Ange will because he can be reliable defensively. But do you bring an Ollie Skip in? But personally, I pick those 3. But my big question probably to you two as well is who plays that 6 role?
That's interesting, just because a lot of people have been talking about, will Spurs have enough creativity, right? But you seem to be more on, I mean, maybe we can get away with
I think
those
that's where the
three.
creativity starts, though. Personally, like
Yeah,
it starts from the driver, like that. Like Basuma, even though he hasn't had his best last few games, he's still getting on the
yeah,
ball and starting something. Because
good point.
you know, and I think people what saying about creativity. I don't know if you saw Bentancur's ball to. I mean, whoever the Uruguay, it probably was Darwin Núñez, knowing how much he misses. Uruguay striker or winger have just absolutely missed it, but the ball he plays over is fantastic. So I'm not worried about creativity or goals in this team because we've still got the players to one score and two create. It is just that sort of protecting that defence at this vulnerable stage of the season.
Who can defend? Who can help the center backs in sort of the defense, but then who can also start the attack, right? Who can get the moves going from the get go? And it's Sonny brings up a good point there, Dave. It's a two-part role, the number 6, and Højbjerg, you and I rate his passing ability, but we do admit sometimes he's not the greatest on the half turn. But Bentancur is terrific on the half turn, but hasn't played that sort of deep lying number 6 in a long time because he's been injured. And Pop Matasar can almost play anywhere, but it's hard to know what the best position for him would be in that midfield 3. So what would you do, Dave?
Look, first of all, you can't play Lo Celso and Højbjerg together. We've seen that with the second goal, right? Ben Davies made a poor decision to pass to Højbjerg. Højbjerg then compounded it with a poor decision to Lo Celso. Let's be honest about it. Lo Celso was weak. Get in front of the ball. Get between the ball and your man. Hold it up if you have to. Draw the free kick. What he done was absolutely weak. So you can't play them two together. Look, for me, I think, it's got to be Bentancur, Højbjerg, and Papa Matasar. For me, it comes down to who's more trustworthy. Before we even think about creativity, we have to earn the right against this Villa midfield to be able to play. And I agree with Sonny. The creativity comes from deep. You go back and watch that Wolves game. A lot of our problem was, we couldn't progress the ball. I'd argue it actually starts with centre-back. You look what Romero done for Argentina the other night compared to what Dier and Davies were transitioning the ball out from, from the Wolves game. It was an absolute huge problem. But you have to earn the right against Aston Villa before you can even think about, creating. They've got Douglas Luiz, scores goals, gets stuck in all around. John McGinn, another player, the exact same. They've got a very, very good midfield in there, very tidy midfield. But look, I don't think we have to focus too much on who plays that 6. I do take Sonny's point. Ideally, you'd want Bentancur there, a player who, Jack, we were at the West Ham game. He turned 2 players on the edge of our own box. That's how much guile that guy has on the ball. But then I'd also argue you could use him in James Maddison's role, doing the exact same sort of thing. But for me, I think, it doesn't really matter too much because in games where Basuma's been man-marked, picked up, or out of the game, whatever way you want to phrase it, James Maddison has dropped in to get the ball. So you could argue that you could play Højbjerg there, Sarr there, Bentancur there, and just get Bentancur to drop back like Maddison has done at times to get on the ball and get us out. What I don't want to see is Højbjerg playing where Sarr plays because Højbjerg doesn't have the legs to get up and down that wing like that position requires to help out that right-handed side. So for me, Sarr has to stay in that role. It's very, very important. You notice when he came off against Wolves, they railroaded us down that side because Højbjerg was put out there and he couldn't cover the same way Papa Matasar does. He doesn't have the same, the same pace as Papa Matasar. So for me, Højbjerg in the 6, Sarr on one side, Bentancur in the 8. That's the way I'd play it personally. I don't want to hear this nonsense about where the creativity is going to come from because if you've got Lo Celso in that midfield straight away, you're going to lose that midfield battle. It'd be useless.
What about if you had Sarr in the 6, Bentancur and Skip? Skip, can find a pass, or you're not convinced on that either.
I just don't. I don't rate. Look, I don't rate Skip. I actually went on it last year when it was very unpopular. I think there's too many weaknesses to his games all round. He doesn't specialize in a defensive midfielder cleaning up play. He doesn't specialize in passing, and the guy has an odd shot on him like we've seen against Chelsea. But apart from that, his all-round game is crap. You go back and look when he's come on. He ain't tackling players. He's pulling them down, giving free kicks left, right, and centre. He can't pass a ball 5 yards. For me, I said this last season, Ollie Skip should be at the club to get him out on loan to develop his game, or he's going to suffer the same fate as Harry Winks because he's homegrown. He'll be kept around to 26, 27, and before you know it, his career is flashed by him.
Mm-hmm. What do you make of that, Sonny? Just as a quick retort to Skippy, do you think Dave's onto something there? I mean, there are a lot of people on this channel, by the way, who sort of feel similar with Skip, that we initially were really high on him and really bigging up on him, but like just after that injury, he just didn't come after. He didn't come back the same player. He just didn't look as sharp on the ball. Didn't like, especially I think the point that I agree with most is actually he really did actually have that grit when he would make tackles. He really did get stuck in for us under Nuno. Just never really saw it the same way after that injury. Like,
I think
it
he's
felt
been
like
failed. He's been failed by many managers. I feel sorry for him, actually. More like, I hope that Ange could get something out of him. I think he's a player where it's like he has got the capability in certain areas. He just needs to develop his game more. And as he gets older and he finds it hard to get game time, maybe a loan would work for him. But I guess at the moment, our worry is we haven't got depth there, so that's probably why we are keeping him around as well. Like even last year, I think he was one of the better players in a quite average season. But yeah, I do agree with Dave to an extent. I do feel like that's why I'm willing to give him a shot, because I want to see what he has got to offer under another manager. And I think this is the manager who would be more perfect for his game.
I do.
Sounds like you're more keen on Skip than Lo Celso, though. Not saying they would occupy the same position or anything, but you would almost rather.
I think you got to have Skip over Lo Celso. I just think Lo Celso is just a body there as well. Like, I can't imagine Lo Celso pulling up trees. Otherwise, we would have seen probably more of him as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would be too. I'd rather Skip over Lo Celso. Don't get me wrong. And look, maybe I'm. Like, it may come across harsh what I'm saying, Ollie Skip, but it's not harsh. I'm just looking out for the guy's career genuinely. I'm not against Ollie Skip. I like him as a guy, and I like the enthusiasm that when he plays, at least he runs about and stuff like that, But you'd argue in years gone by, the systems we play, yes, it would suit him in the defensive system, but when we're playing the Postecoglou system, you can see he's lacking on the football. He doesn't have the speed at all, yet, to be able to execute what Postecoglou needs his midfielders to do. And I'd also argue that he's already been given his chance. He started off the season in that role, and Papa Matasar came in against Man United, and ever since then, he's ran with it. So I'll question where Skip's going to get his next opportunity.
Yeah, I think Skip has sort of had... It's difficult because when he was doing well at Spurs, we had no midfielders to pick from. It was kind of just him and Højbjerg, and then Winks or whatever, and like others that just really weren't serviceable enough. So he did stand out and show that he was good. And I do feel like he has been a different player since that injury. And I think it is especially on the defensive end of things. I feel like I do see him get megged more than he used to, just gets dribbled past more than he used to. And it also could be the case that when he came back from this injury, he had a lot more midfielders actually, going for his position than what he originally had at Spurs. And now when you're coming back from a big long-term injury, you have all these other guys that are quite good that are already kind of competing for your position, and Bentancur, in the case of Højbjerg, as well as Basuma, right, all kind of competing for his position. It was going to be tough to come back from that. And as well, you're not going to be given a ton of minutes either, really, coming back from that. Fortunately, though, he kind of did last season. He was given... Another interruption by Antonio Conte because of, I think, a lot of the injuries that were happening at Spurs. But I just don't know if he really stood out in the way that we really needed him to have a lot of confidence that he could sort of be given a ton of minutes this season. And you bring up a good point too, Dave, that in the beginning of the preseason, as well as also in the Brentford game, he was given minutes. And then kind of ever since then, he's kind of been sort of phased out actually by Postecoglou. And it could be because he didn't make the impression that Postecoglou needed him to. And I think ever since then, Ange has leaned a lot more on Højbjerg than he actually has on Skip for whatever reason that might be. But in the midfield changes, it sounds like, to summarize, we went for some sort of rotation of Bentancur, Højbjerg, as well as I think Pap Matasar in the back line. I think we've found some sort of solution of some kind with Udogie, Emerson, and I think Davies, as well as a Pedro Porro. And we'll see if Spurs can make the most of it. But we're going to end off last with just sort of some plugging of Sonny's channel, and also a very cheesy Thanksgiving themed question about sort of Spurs in general. So we'll see you in part 3. Wrapping up in part 3 here, everybody. And we're going to be asking a very Yank themed question. It is Thanksgiving tomorrow, and us Yanks, we like to gorge in the food and the desserts, and we like to make a mild attempt at taking a moment and reflecting on what we're thankful for in this complex and hectic world of ours. So I decided to spin it on this Yank holiday and make it more of a Spurs themed one. So I'm going to be asking you, Sonny, what are you thankful for as a Spurs fan? What do you like most about being a Spurs fan? What are you most proud of?
I like two things. I like being the underdog. I like being the team out of the big six, this traditional big six. Who, I mean, maybe not after this Jermain Defoe stuff, but we've sort of got to where we are through, like purity. We haven't bought our way through oil money.
Yeah.
We weren't one of the big names like a Manchester United or Liverpool, or Arsenal. Maybe we've sort of like weaved our way in cheekily, maybe like sort of just dining at the top table where people don't like us. Everyone seems to hate us for no reason. I don't mind that. And also, I think we've been lucky to have lots of what I think of when I think of Tottenham is we've been lucky to have so many good strikers over the years and attackers. Ginola, Berbatov, Crouch, Keane, Defoe. His name's going to come up a lot. Kane, Son. We just our attacking football has been one of the best things, and I'm also grateful that it's now back under Ange Postecoglou.
Dave, I agreed with one of those that he brought up. Spurs have a sort of purity to them. We are almost unique and just sort of Tottenham Hotspur in general is just kind of a unique club. I also like the fact that we are the most hated, it feels like, in a lot of cases, especially in and around London. It's nice to be almost everybody's, number one hated team or number one rival. It just makes it kind of fun for when we even have pretty mediocre seasons. Like we'll still have a ton of teams still talking about us and still mentioning us, even when we've done almost nothing. But what do you like most about being a Spurs fan? What are you thankful for as a Spurs fan?
Yeah, look, I mean, Lily White, symbols purity, right? So definitely agree with him on that. I do like being the underdog, but, I'm thankful for being hated because being honest, I absolutely love the fact that, our football club is absolutely hated because, being honest, it keeps it entertaining. It makes every game, something on the line because even if it's, Fife Athletic, say, that their fans are going to give it to Tottenham fans if they beat us, So, I absolutely love the fact that we're hating and I'm thankful for it because it keeps it interesting. But no, in all honesty, I am thankful for, the football club and everything that comes with it, the fans, the players, the managers, it's been a constant in my life. So just thankful for it in general. It's got me through some of the happiest days of my life and it's got me through some of the worst days of my life. So just got the whole establishment to be thankful for in general.
I love being a Spurs fan. I'll keep it sort of short and simple. I've never once ever in my lifetime as a Spurs fan ever wanted anything different. Even during the really bad times, I have, found sort of a kind of a bit of humor in it, in the fact that it seems like Spurs on their day are really the team. And this is not even cliche. I think this is actually true. I've seen so many Spurs teams that are capable of beating some of the best teams we've ever seen, across the Premier League or Europe. Like on our day, we can smack, Real Madrid 3-0, right? And then in the same week, we could lose to NS Mura, or Paços de Ferreira. That's what I think is quite funny about being a Spurs fan, is that we are so capable of glory and we are so capable of being in and around the best of the teams, but we do find a way to slip up in sort of a very roller coaster type fashion. And I think there's some kind of humor or some type of fun in that as a Spurs fan, every single year we kind of go through the motions of, quietly confident, not confident at all, petrified, or really overconfident. It's just we cycle through so many different emotions. And it's something, I don't know, something kind of nice about that. Whereas like being a Man United fan or being like a Chelsea fan or a Man City fan, you just every season have to get into the same mindset of, having, all this pressure on you, all the money that comes with it, just sort of the flash and everything like that. I just, never really something that attracted me or really anything that, gauged my interest. So I just like being a Spurs fan on a lot of, but that's the one that comes to mind.
On that point, just quickly, I was absolutely disgusted. There was a United fan on Sky Sports being interviewed the other day. He's an actor in Game of Thrones or something like that. And he said, it's nice to feel like normal Premier League clubs now, We've been winning so much. It's nice to feel like it's nice to see what other clubs go through. Just hopefully it doesn't last too long. I'm sitting there, I'm like, you absolute knobhead. You absolute knob, So, I just I just want to be winners. I want to feel like the way they feel, you know. I want to be able to be like that, where it's just like, do you know what? I wouldn't mind losing for a while. Winning all the time is boring, you know.
This is the same bloke, by the way, who I think David Beckham asked him for a picture. So that's probably why he's talking like that.
It is fun too that as well, like this is just a reflection quickly on what I was just speaking about. Like all of a sudden now everybody's, you know, referring to Spurs as like a well-run club and like the example of like what, you know, they want their club to start acting like. And it's like just last season, you know, we were the symbol of chaos and the symbol of disaster and everything. So I think that's another sort of beauty about Spurs and just sort of, you know, our fluctuation between, you know, these sort of states of existence. But everybody, let us know in the comments what you're thankful for about being a Spurs fan, especially this community of ours. I think is also absolutely terrific. And I also love Spurs fans. I think Spurs fans, what makes them also very funny is we could have the worst season ever. And then the following season, you'll still meet plenty of Spurs fans that say, you know what? I think we're going to win something, you know, this year, which is one of my favorite things as well about us Spurs fans. But I think we'll leave it there, everybody. Sonny Talk Spurs, everybody. Head on over, please. Do check him out. He's pumping out videos on a regular basis, trying to grow his channel, and we're trying to help him in doing that too. We want to show him some love and some support. So please do that. Sonny, anything coming up? Anything on your mind that you want to make a video about?
Obviously I've got my points deduction video, so go and have a look on that where I go into a bit more detail about the breach. Just say a bit more detail. We did talk about it for 40 minutes straight. Then I've got a nice good video about, I give 5 reasons why I think Tottenham can still finish in the top 4. Got some transfer videos about Santiago Jimenez and Antonio Nusa. And hopefully, if fingers crossed, if all goes to plan, I've got an Aston Villa preview with a TalkSport favourite, Gabby Agbonlahor, before I knock the mic over. So hopefully that all comes off and people can see that. So keep an eye out for that one as well.
Unpopular opinion. I love Gabby's accent. Maybe that's not a popular opinion, but I do love his accent.
Apparently that's one. People call it one of the worst in the UK. So
I do enjoy it. Dave, any final words before we wrap this up?
Yeah, first of all, tell Gabby I said stop being so anti-Tottenham. It's not cool, look. And then second of all, happy Thanksgiving to all of you guys out there celebrating it. You know, hopefully you have a great and wonderful day. I'm jealous we don't have Thanksgiving over here, so please go make the most of it on my behalf and have a great day. Spend it with family and friends the way it's supposed to.
Enjoy your food, enjoy your time, enjoy your Tottenham Hotspur, everybody. We'll leave you there. Please smash the like button on this podcast. Please head on over to Sonny Talk Spurs. Show this man some love. He's been doing a great job and, you know, adding a lot to this podcast. It's been very fun, you know, having these conversations with him. So do show him some support and we'll leave you there. Come on, you Spurs. In the big Ange we trust. Let's smash the villains this weekend. Everywhere we go.